Good afternoon and welcome to African Economy Spectrum TV, your comprehensive insight into the market, financial development and economic landscape of Africa. Here's what we are tracking today. Cape Verde inflation rate rise to 2.8% in August 2025. Two more Dangote gasoline shipments head to the U.S. after first delivery. Starlink hit capacity in Nigeria's largest cities. Plus, we look at the top 10 African countries with the lowest fuel prices in September 2025. Great to have you on this half hour show. I am Wangfon Walter. We start off this afternoon from the financial market, specifically the US dollars against other African currencies. The US dollars against Nigerian naira is at 1,492 kobo 96. I beg your pardon. The US dollars against Nigerian naira is at 1,492 naira 96 kobo against the US dollars, which shows that the US dollars is falling against the Nigerian naira at 6.090%, indicating a percentage of 0.41. The US dollars against South African rand is at 17 rand, which shows that the US dollars is rising against the South African rand at 0.09, indicating a 0.05%. The US dollars against Zambian kwacha is at 23 kwacha against the US dollars, which shows that the US dollars is falling against the Zambian kwacha at 0.5930, indicating a percentage of 2.47. The US dollars against Egyptian pound is at 48 pound, which shows that the US dollars is falling against the Egyptian pound at 0.0900, indicating a percentage of 0.19%. The US dollars against Algerian dinar is at 129 per US dollar, which shows that the US dollar is falling against the Algerian dinar at 0.202, indicating a percentage of 0.16%. The US dollars against Angolan kwanza is at 922 kwanza per US dollar, which shows that the US dollar is rising against the Angolan kwanza at 4.224, indicating a percentage of 0.46%. Over the past 3 decades, Africa has managed to grow its food production by an impressive 160%, yet hunger has only deepened. In the last 10 years alone, the number of people struggling to access enough food has climbed by 60%. Today, about 58% of Africa face food insecurity, a rate that is twice the global average, according to the World Bank. And the reason behind food insecurity are complex, ranging from climate disasters to conflict. But one factor that is often overlooked is transportation. Bad roads, clogged port, sluggish border crossings, and steep trade costs all combine to create invisible barriers. The result is long, unreliable supply chains that leave entire communities cut off from affordable staples, turning poor connectivity into yet another driver of hunger. According to the World Bank, Nigeria tops the list with 24.2 million people facing food insecurity. It is followed by the Democratic Republic of Congo with 22.4 million, while Sudan ranks third with 14.6 million people affected. Starlink internet service has reached capacity in Nigeria's largest cities, forcing the company to hold new sign-ups and pushing would-be customers onto a wait list. Residents in areas such as Lagos and Abuja encountered sold-out notices on Starlink's website. Starlink previously paused services in Nigeria over bandwidth shortages and regulatory concerns. The experience in Nigeria highlights the logistical and regulatory challenges of scaling Starlink in Africa. Africa's urban footprint has grown rapidly since 1975, transforming economies and enhancing foreign trade. Major cities such as Cairo, Lagos, and Kinshasa have transitioned into megacities with populations exceeding 17 million residents. Urbanization is driven by migration to cities offering economic opportunities and strategic locations. Effective urban planning will be critical to harnessing the benefit and mitigating the risks of Africa's urban growth. With that said, here are the top 10 most populated cities by 2025. Top on the list is Cairo, with over 23 million population. Second is Kinshasa with over 17 million population. Third is Lagos. Fourth is Luanda. Fifth is Dar es Salaam. Sixth is Khartoum with over 6 million population. Seventh is Johannesburg, with the country is South Africa. Eight is Abidjan, with the country is Ivory Coast with over 6 million population. Ninth is Addis Ababa. 10th is Alexandria, with the country Egypt with over 5 million population. The U.S. Department of State has issued travel advisories under a 4-tier system ranging from level 1, which advises exercise normal precautions, to level 14, which urges do not travel because of life-threatening dangers. For the purpose of this report, only African countries under the most severe categories, level 3, reconsider travel, and level 4, do not travel, are highlighted as these pose the greatest risks to travelers across the U.S. Department of State. The United States issued travel advisories primarily to protect its citizens abroad by alerting them to security, health, and political risks they may face in foreign countries. The advisories serve both as warnings and guidance, helping travelers make informed decisions before and during their trips. They're also a diplomatic tool, signaling Washington's assessment of stability and safety in different regions. To determine the advisory level for each country, the U.S. Department of State relies on a wide range of input. These include intelligence and security assessment from U.S. embassies and consulate, reports from the FBI, CIA, and Department of Defense, as well as data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on health risks. Airports may face a simple transit point, but in reality they are barometers of progress. They show a city sees itself and how it wants the world to see it. Across Africa, airports are taking on that role with pride. As the continent pushes for deeper integration under the African Continental Free Trade Area, airports are becoming engines of growth and vital enablers of mobility. At the 2025 World Airline Awards, reports show that transformation by naming the top 10 regional airports in Africa. Leading the rankings were the 3 South African hubs, Cape Town International, Johannesburg OR Tambo, and Durban's King Shaka International. The rise of regional airports is tied to larger economic and social trends. Africa middle class is expanding, tourism is rebounding, and businesses are demanding faster, more reliable transport options. These factors are pushing government and private investors to modernize terminals, improve logistics systems, and align airport services with international standards. You are still watching African Economy. Stay tuned for the rest of the stories. much for staying with us, and now to the rest of the stories. As energy costs burden households and businesses in many African countries, the few countries that can maintain fuel prices relatively low have one less economic challenge to contend with. Fuel prices influence our inflation rate and directly affect essential product and service cost. Lower gasoline prices promote industrial growth, farming and manufacturing development. Accessible fuel strengthens public transportation systems and supports working populations. In addition to making gas filling up more affordable fuel has a significant impact on the countries of an African country, influencing everything from food cost to industrial output and even the competitiveness of regional trade. Primarily, when gasoline prices are affordable, it can lower subsidy burdens and free up resources for healthcare, education, infrastructure development, and an array of other sectors. Finding strategies to keep gasoline inexpensive via refining capacity, alternative energy, and effective distribution is not just an economic, but also a social necessity for Africa, where energy and transportation are essential to development. A growing number of African countries have begun accepting people deported by the United States under a policy known as third country deportations, where deportees are sent to a country that is not their home nation. Several African nations, including Rwanda, Ghana, Eswatini, and Uganda, have participated with varying numbers of deportees in specific bilateral agreement. Challenges to this policy have emerged from civil society groups and legal experts, questioning the transparency and conditions of these deportations. Governments may engage in this policy as a strategy to improve relations with the U.S., but human rights organizations warn of serious associated risks. The U.S. says the approach is meant to speed up deportations when a person's country of foreign refuses to take them back. Rwanda became one of the first African countries to take part in the program. In August 2025, the government confirmed that 7 people deported by the U.S. had arrived in country under a bilateral agreement signed earlier that month. In July 2025, Eswatini received 5 people deported from the U.S. under the third deportation policy. Ghana is the most recent country to be linked to the scheme, as President John Mahama confirmed in September 2025 that 14 people, including Nigerians and Gambians, had arrived from the U.S. and were being temporarily hosted in Ghana. Uganda confirmed in August 2025 that it has agreed in principle to receive some third country deportees under specific conditions, though no arrivals have been made public yet. The annual inflation rate in Cape Verde edged to 2.8% in August 2025 from 2.7% in the previous month. It marked the highest inflation rate since August 2023, with food and beverages prices rising the most in 4 months to 1.9 and 1.3 in July, according to the chart. Growth also accelerated across several key CPI categories, notably clothing and footwear, to 13.2% and 10.6% in July. Hotels, restaurants and cafes to 9.1% and 8.9%. Furnishings and household equipment to 5.5% and 4.5%. And recreation and culture to 2.4% and 2.0%. In contrast, inflation eased in other areas, transport at 1.5% and 2.0%. Alcoholic beverages and tobacco at 5.7% and 5.9%, and miscellaneous goods and services at 4.5% and 6.8%, while household prices were unchanged at 0% and 0.2%. On a monthly basis, the Consumer Price Index CPI rose by 0.2% in August, slowing from a 0.9% increase in July. Lastly, in African economy, Nigeria's Dangote refinery has sent its first confirmed gasoline shipment to the U.S., and 2 more are on the way, showing its growing reach into one of the world's toughest fuel market. The first cargo arrived at New York Harbor with 320,000 barrels of gasoline meeting U.S. standards. Two additional shipments are en route to the U.S., scheduled for arrival in mid to late September, as the refinery's entry into the U.S. market showcases its compliance with strict fuel quality standards. And that brings us to today's edition of African Economy. Thank you so much for watching. I am the one for the water. Good afternoon.